black community. There's a serious problem. The crime rates are high. I know they're high in other communities. Crime rates are high, and you see things in the black community, as they call it, black community, that you don't see happening anywhere else. And it almost seems as if when you see these things that this is a bad group of evil, cursed people, and these things there. And sometimes we don't know how we have arrived where we are. So I'm going to teach today so that you'll understand some of the problems that exist. Let me give you an example, and I want y'all to get this and understand this. Men and children, that's why it's so important, men and children who do not know who their fathers are, especially boys and girls who do not know who their fathers are, have a high potential of being disrupted, have a very high potential of being caught up in crime and living a life of crime. That's why fathers play a very important role in the lives of children. Not to know that. It's not so much as the mothers. Mothers are good. Fathers provide stability. According to the Bible, that male figure is needed. That's why you have to understand what your responsibilities are. That's why when you go to the Bible, you look at the scripture, I'm going to show you a few things in the Bible. He never mentions who the mothers are in most scriptures. Go over to the book of Exodus chapter 5 and 1. Genesis chapter 5 and 1. Black men particularly haven't understood their responsibility and role in the life of their children, which is very important. I'll be teaching this. It might get a little hot in here, so I want to put the air conditioner on a little higher because we might get warm. But I'm going to need a good reader, and Jude, I'm volunteering you. I hope they taught you how to read good in school. Come on. You got it? All right. You don't, Amelia over there looking at you. All right. Huh? You want her to, you volunteered her. He going to volunteer his wife to do it. She got the babies. Come on up. If you don't make it, I'll get somebody else. We can start off. If you mess up, I'm getting somebody else. Give him he didn't know, he wasn't looking for this, right? You ready? Or you need some practice? Huh? He said, I'm sure I don't want to get a meal. All right, let's look at this. Okay, Exodus chapter 5 and 1. Tell what I'm talking about. 5 and 1,
This is the book of generation of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him.
You're pretty good, Jude. I think I may keep you, boy. Go ahead.
Male and female created he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam, in a day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son at his own likeness, and after his image, and called his name Seth.
They had a son named Seth.
And the days of Adam after he had begotten.
Where's Eve in that? She ain't even mentioned. They don't even have no mention of Eve. All right, read.
And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. And Enos lived after.
So what is important in the genealogy? They don't include the female. Very rare you'll see the female included, because her position was unstable. She had an unstable position, simply because she's a Witten today, a Cowart tomorrow. See, she's a Smith today, a Jones tomorrow, because her name is not a stable name. Because when she gets married, she becomes something else. That's why her position was irrelevant in genealogies. Very rare you'll see that. The only reason Mary's name is so significant because there was no male involved. So you'll see her mentioned a lot. And most time, if you see a woman mentioned, the only relevance to her name being mentioned is simply because there was something miraculous about her birth. Either she was too old or either she was a virgin. Most time, then it just keeps on going all through the male, because the woman was not a significant figure in genealogy because she changes. And it would be too complicated to say this one and then she changes to that. So that's one of the reasons, all right? But I want you to see, not having that, and I thank God that my father didn't give me that, but I was able to get that replaced in my life by my grandfather. And I didn't go through a lot of the troubling that children do as males, particular males at my age, is because my grandfather was an active part of my life, very active in my life. My grandfather was. He had people like Aurelius Bell, Elder Nixon, always somebody positive there at every stage of my life to have that male there. So a lot of things that do, getting in and out of jail and all those things I didn't have. But now what you're having now with the race that you know, I'm going to say the black race because I want to show you that you're not African Americans. What you have is a race of people who do not know their fathers. Because in slavery, you no longer now can connect all the way to your fathers, and you can't. So you don't know who you are. Don't really know who you are. All you know is where it starts here in 1619. So you have a disrupted race, just like you have a disruptive child, simply because they can't connect to their past. So now because they cannot connect to their past, the whole race is acting out of behavior. Just like an individual child would act out of behavior who does not understand and does not have the connection with the father and hasn't had anybody to replace that. Everybody follow me? Is making any sense? It's going to be very important that you get this now. So I want to talk about black history versus American history. Two things. There's a difference between, and what we call African American history is really American history, because it don't start in Africa. How can it be African American history and don't start in Africa? It's called American history because you start out as a defeated person in history. You don't start off on the top. You start off as a slave. So when you get history of the black men in America, when it starts in school, it starts in 1619 where you're defeated. It doesn't go back to where you were before 1619, because before you was a slave, you was something else. So now you need to find out what I was before I was a slave. Because now instead of looking up to who I am, when I look back to 1619, I look down to who I am and I look like this. It looks like this in history. It looks like that we started here and progressed up versus we're here and down. Actually, before you were in America, you were here. And America is a downsize of where you really were. So we're going to teach, cut the light off some. And I want every young man, I want every young lady, I don't want you talking, I don't want you texting, I don't want you playing, I don't care if your child is 2 years old, 1 year old, they need to hear this because they need to understand history. And we thank God tonight, we're blessed to have multicultural. We have Mexican, we have white, we have Hispanic, we have several dialects, and I'm teaching this so that you will understand, because now when we understand each other's culture, then we can understand how to get along better. And that's the problem, is we don't understand where each other's come from. And there are things that you're going to learn tonight that you didn't know about yourself, and maybe that you didn't even know about your brothers and sisters in the church. Okay, first of all, black history, and you need to get this on camera. I want you to pay very, very close attention. Black history begins in the Garden of Eden. American history of the black man begins in 1619. Let's go to the next slide. All right? Go with me to Genesis chapter 2 and 10. Genesis chapter 2 and 10. All right? Jude, you should be young enough that you can see in here. Right? You see? Now, what I'm reading you in Genesis chapter 2 and 10 is the first locations mentioned in the Bible. The first city is mentioned in the Bible. These are the first of civilizations that are mentioned in the Bible. All right? Genesis 2 and 10. Read.
And the river went out of Eden to the water, to the water of the garden. And from thence it was parted. And became into 4 heads.
Okay, there's a river went out that came into 4 heads.
The name of the first is Pison.
The name of the first river is Pison.
that is which compasseth the whole land of Havilah,
Havilah. All right, that's Havilah.
where there is gold.
Havilah. That word is Havilah. All right, we got a first. Now that's the first city or the first civilization, the first place that God named of a city is called Havilah. See where Havilah was. Go to Genesis chapter 25. All right. Now, the Egyptians were, of course, a dark-complected people. Genesis chapter 25 and verse 18. Look at Genesis 25 and 18.
And there dwell from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt.
That's before where?
Egypt.
So where's Havilah? Havilah is just before you get into Egypt. And the Egyptians, of course, was black, dark-skinned people. So now what you have now is the first city that's named in the Bible is the neighbors to the Egyptians, which is Havilah. All right? Now, you got, so I want you to see that in the very beginning of civilization, there was, in fact, black people in the very beginning of civilization. Go down, keep reading. 12th verse, read.
And the gold of that land is good. And there is Bethlehem and the oxy stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. That same is in that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. So your first two towns. Now where's that one? The second one is it compasses the land of what?
Ethiopia.
All right. So the first one is Havilah, which is dark-skinned people. The second one is Ethiopia, which is dark-skinned people. So the first two cities mentioned in the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, are areas where black people dwell. So that's very first two. So now, that's why, cut the lights on. Come on, y'all got to pay attention to me tonight now, here. All right, pay attention, okay? Listen, so that's why now you have, I'm going to go down further, but I want to just deal with those two. That's why it's important that you understand now black history, not from America's perspective, but you got to understand it from a biblical perspective, because what happens in America, everybody's made Africa. So everybody's black is called African American. Now, you can be white and called Swedish or Asia, but everybody black is labeled as Africans. And that's where the problem becomes. Because just like there are several different white people who have white races, there are several different black people who have black races besides Africa. So you got Ethiopia, you got Egyptians, you got Indians, but they class all of them as Africans. And that's not true. So now you don't really understand the different diversities of different kind of black people. There are different kinds of black people. But everybody's grouped in America as Africa because, and that's important. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide, all right? Listen to this. See, these are some of the towns that you'll see. And these are some of the first ones that was mentioned in the Bible. And I want y'all to remember some of these words because they're going to mean something later. A couple I want you to remember. What is that word? Niger, all right? Nigeria. Remember those words because they're going to mean something in later. There's one of them that the Lord talks about. Where's Kenya? Where's Kenya? Africa, Kenya. And what was that second tiny name? Ethiopia. See what Ethiopia is? See Kenya? You see Egypt? All right, all those areas there. And those are the things that the Bible mentioned in Genesis chapter 20, Genesis chapter 2 as the first civilizations in the Bible. Now that you didn't learn in school. And you won't learn that in school, but the Bible points it out exactly where it is. Now we can't take that out of the Bible. That's in the book of Genesis chapter 2. That's Bible history, and Bible history is going to tell you something about black history. Amen. All right, go with me quickly. Go to the next slide. Next slide. All right. Go back, go back, go back. Don't go too fast. Go back. So this is the land that the Lord mentioned. Havilah. He named that area again. All right, remember that. Just remember that, all right? All right, go ahead. Go slide it again. All right. Not much is said. Not much is spoken of about the slaves before America. Only that they were sold by fellow Africans in American history. Everyone who is black is from Africa, but this is not true. There are several nationalities and races of people with the same dark skin. So there are several different nationalities of people with the same dark skin. Only when you get to America do they only say African. Only when you get to America. Because that keeps you from really knowing your true heritage and where you're really from. Because when I say Africa, everybody points back to Africa. But there were other places that black people were besides Africa. There were black people that were never sold. You see? And the civilization was even greater than the American civilization today. As a matter of fact, we pattern after some of those places. Go to the next place. All right? Now, whenever you fill out a paper, and you used to have it on the job, but they stopped it on the jobs. Whenever you fill out a paper, they ask you something. They'll say ethnic origin. Please specify your ethnic. White, Hispanic, or Latino, black, or African American. Most of us don't pay attention to that. You don't pay attention to black or African American, you just circle African American. Which means there is a difference between somebody that's black and somebody that's an African American. So I wonder who are the blacks that are not African Americans. Because truly when you sign it, it's identifying there is a black or African American, Native American, you see that? American Indian, Asian or Pacific or Islander. Are y'all following me? Is this making any sense? So remember that. Go to the next one. All right. Notice in most applications there is no identification as to be American unless you're claiming African American, but there is an option to consider yourself just black. Under the label black are several nationalities, however, none are recognized as Americans except Africans. So now you got all these different labels. Now, it didn't say black America. It said African American or black. The only way that you can be classified as an American is a black or an African American. You follow me? The other ones just, it doesn't say black American, black or African American. And what happens is, and this is very important that you understand, that you get the understanding of this, because it's important that you're grouped into one group of people. And you know, black people think they're saying something very big when they say I'm African American, and they have no history of themselves. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. I'll show you this. Go to the next one. All right, that's an Egyptian. He's not from Africa. See the color? He's dark. He's an Egyptian, not American, not African. Read. Go to the next one. I'm sorry, next one. That's an African, dark. Next one. That's an Ethiopian. Next one. That's the American Native Indians. Those are Indians in America that was here when Columbus came here. Dark. Go to the next one. Come on. What you doing with that light? Come on. All right. Another group of Indians. Dark. Another group of Indians. Dark. The Cherokee Indians. Keep going. Nigerians. Ethiopian Jews. So you'll see now you got all of these different types of black people, but yet under one label as African, and they're not all Africans. They're from different people. So what happened is we have been brainwashed and have been taught to accept something to label us from one place, because if you go beyond what they call American African history, you'll find out some very interesting stuff that relates back to the Bible. It's already making sense to you right now. All right, go to the next one. Now, go back. Now that it is understood that all black people are not Africans, we have a better picture of the diversities of black, and we can better understand who the true Hebrews are. Now go to Acts chapter 13, put the light back on. There's a word that people are trying to get you to get away from. All right? That's the word that they're trying to get you to get away from. That word is the word Negro or nigger. And everybody now is giving it a bad word. And I tell you why. Because if I get you to use the word Africa, and don't get you to get the word nigger or Nigeria, it won't punch you back to where you really are. So in an effort, now listen, that word was good. Back then, folks said in racial times when the tension was high, they said nigger, they said Nigeria, nigger, Negro, but they found out through racism that word is going to lead you somewhere. And you're going to look at that word as more than a derogative word, and you're going to say something. So they say, let's ban that word, let's make it a slang word. A slang word now. Don't say nigger. Don't say that. If you say nigger, that's a slang word. But see, there's a reason. Because when you go to Acts chapter 13, the Lord particularly refers to black people in Acts chapter 13, a group of black people, as Niger or nigger. All right? Watch. Go to the book of Acts chapter 13 and 1. Read.
Now there were in the church that was at Antioch.
That was in the church that was at Antioch.
Certain prophets and teachers.
Certain prophets and teachers.
As Barnabas and Simon.
As Barnabas and Simon.
That was called Niger.
That was called Niger or nigger, Niger. That's what they were called. But we need to know that this is what this word means. Read.
That was called Niger and Lucius of Cyrene.
Go to the next slide. All right. There's the word Niger, a nigger. All right. Depending upon how you want to say it. All right, go to the next one. All right. Listen at that. Look at this word. Niger, a nigger. All right. Nigger, Niger, nigger, however you want to say it. But this is what it means. The word origin, dark in color. Dark in color. So that word that you see, all right, the Greek word there means dark in color. So when it said there were certain people in the church, as Barnabas, who was called Niger, or who was dark in color, there he is in the Bible. He ain't calling Africa. He's called Niger, a nigger, in the book. That's in the Bible. So now you run away from that word, but the Bible labeled you in the Bible as that. So why are you running? And then the whole country is programmed that that's a bad word, when the Bible uses it as a good word so that you'll stay away from it so you won't know who you are. So I'm going to call you African so that you won't know who you really are, because if you realize who you really are, it's going to get you out of that slump that you're in. So nigger is not a bad word. Because somebody uses it and defines it and ignorantly uses it and don't know what it is, don't mean I'm going to stop using it. Because I know the real meaning of what it is. But this was an effort to keep you away from it, because you're going to find some powerful words behind that. Go to the next slide. All right. Negro. Now, that's what it says. Dated, offensive. It wasn't always offensive. At some point it became offensive. Not only now, nigger was the bad word, but then we're going to ban Negro too. It's too close. Negro, a member of a dark-skinned group of people, originally native to Africa south of the Sahara, related to black people. Negro, all right, read. Go to the next one, I'm sorry, go to the next one. And I get your words right. So you got Negro, you got nigger, that's the one with 2 G's. That's the slang one with the 2 G's. But we're going to get a word so close, and we're going to ban both of them. We're going to ban the N-I-G-G-E-R and the N-I-G-E-R. So that nigger word was created as a slang word to keep you from the other words. Just like read and read. They're spelled together, spelled the same, but they don't mean the same. Just like trunk and trunk. They sound the same, but they don't mean the same. So there's a nigger and there's a nigger. They sound alike. One of them is offensive. Go to the next one. Then you got another word that's particularly used by blacks as nigger. My nigger. See, that's not the same word as nigger. See, so you hear all these people say, and you're calling your brothers niggers. Well, you're not saying nigger. Most times the young people say, my nigger. So there's a difference between nigger, and nigger. All of them different, even though they sound alike. Hope y'all getting this. Your teacher in school and even high echelon, educated black folk, they're ignorant and don't even know this. And they tell, oh, that's a bad word. Don't say that. Don't put that in your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. You ain't got no sense because you don't know your history. And they're all on TV talking about the N word. They won't say the whole word because it's going to lead you somewhere. Next word. Go to the next one. All right. Now, there's a location connected with that name. Niger, location. In the continent of Africa, Niger covered. So you got all this. The 22nd largest nation in terms of land area. It's the 22nd largest land area in the whole world. Niger. Powerful. Next word. Next slide. Both Barnabas and Simon was called Niger, which means black. Go back to the book of Acts chapter 13. All right. Acts 13. Acts the 13th chapter and verse number 3. Read.
And when they had fasted and prayed.
Is that 13? Get 13 and 13 and 1. Read.
Now when they're in the church that was at Antioch.
Next slide.
Certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger.
All right, what does that word Niger mean? Who was called Niger? Barnabas and who? Simon. All right, go to the book of Acts 4 and 36. Acts 4 and 36. All right, listen to this. Acts 4 and 36.
And Joseph, who by the apostles was surnamed Barnabas.
So Joseph, who by the apostles was surnamed who?
Barnabas.
And what was he called in Acts 13?
Niger.
What was he called in Acts 13? Come on, let me hear you. Niger. And Niger means what? So he's Barnabas. So now his surname was Joseph. And his Barnabas, read what it says. Come on.
Which was surnamed Barnabas, which is being interpreted the son of consolation. A Levite.
He was a what? So he was Barnabas, but he was also called Niger, and he was of the tribe of Levi. All right? And Abraham had 12, Jacob had 12 sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. And Levi was one of the 12 tribes. Go to the book of Revelation chapter 7. Revelation 7 and 4. Read Revelation 7 and 4.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed.
All right.
And there were sealed 140 and 40,000.
100 and what?
140 and 4,000.
140 and 4,000.
Of all the tribes of children of Israel. And of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Reuben was sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Aser were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Nephilim were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Messenius were sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000. And of the tribe of Levi was sealed 12,000. So of the tribe of
Levi was sealed what?
12,000.
And who was a Levi? Barnabas, who's also called what? Niger. So that means one of the tribes of Israel was, of course, then black. Because Barnabas, who was a Levi, who's also called Niger, was dark. All right, go to the next slide. Genesis 29. All right. Okay, Barnabas called Niger, which, go back to the other one. Go to one. Barnabas, who's called Niger, a nigger, which means black, was of the tribe of Levi. All right. Okay. Abraham's grandson. All right, let's go down to the next slide. All right. Now let me show you how America works, and so you can understand. And when I say America, I want everybody to look at this. Cut the light on a minute. I want you to understand, although there's a lot of people whose heart have changed and minds have changed, the system that was put in hadn't changed. Because the system was created by people who had a different heart than a lot of the people who got the heart now. Give you an example of that. You go in the store, you got two beans, all right? You got two types of beans. They're basically the same beans. The only difference between the beans is the color, right? You got a bean that you call a Negro bean. They call them black beans, right? You got another bean that's white. They call that a great white northern. Both the same kind of beans. So rather than just saying, rather than saying a white bean and a black bean, just normal white bean and black bean, I got to remember, it's the design of the country. Give another example. Most cases, if you get cut, you go and you get cut, you get a Band-Aid. And even to this day, unless it just started, very rare you'll find a brown Band-Aid. And they didn't come up with them now. But this has just been recently. Because the country was not designed by people who had the... So Americans wonder what the problem is now. So I can fix a system. The system do the work even when your heart changed. So even if your mindset have changed and you've changed your mind, if I create a system, it's the system at work, even if the people ain't at work. So when you look at it in the mindset of the people, and this is something that you have to understand. So in your mindset, when you see yourself as only a slave and as only a subject, you do nothing about your condition and you lose pride of who you are. Pride of what, and that's why you got a people that are living in a slump position, satisfied with it, in a down position, satisfied in it, because they don't know who they are. I'll give you an example of that. I'll give you a perfect example. What brought the prodigal son out of his dilemma was remembering who his father was. He was in the hog pen, and what gave him the audacity to get out, he says, let me go back and think about how many hired servants that my father had. So he looked at himself as, because he's out there, he's been hired by somebody to be a slave. Go to the book of, go down in the book of, now this story is giving you knowledge of the children of Israel. Go to the book of Luke chapter 15. Luke 15. All right? Luke 15. 15th chapter of Luke. And 12. All right, 15 and 12. Read.
And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto him his living.
Yes.
And not many days after, the young son gathered all together and took his journey unto a far country. And there wasted his substance with righteous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in the land, in that land. And he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself into a citizen of that country. And he sent him unto his fields to feed swine.
So he's a citizen of the country. So wherever he was not a citizen there. He became a citizen there. So you're looking at the Hebrews who came from Africa, the blacks that in America today, who have eventually became a citizen here. All right? But look what wakes this boy up. What wakes him up is what he used to be. When he finds out what he used to be, it gets him out of the condition that he's in. Look what he says. Read.
And when he would have fain filled his belly with husk, that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him.
Yes.
And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my fathers have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father.
The problem is, if this young man had no knowledge of how great his father was, he would have not made any aim to get better. When you don't realize that you have a rich past and that your history is greater than somebody who came over here on some ships and that were beat down and whipped and became something, you never reached to be that. When this boy remembered, my father was this, my father was that, that gives him a boost to say, this is not what I'm supposed to be. But the average man in America don't know what he was, and that's why he don't know what he's supposed to be. So he's satisfied with a hog pen because he never remembered a time that he was greater. And so the job that the preachers should be doing is showing you where you came from so that you'll understand that you're living a low life in the ghetto. You're living a low life where you are. You're more than where you're living. And that's what has not been brought to the knowledge of black people today, and that's why they're struggling and they're okay living the way that they're living. There are certain conditions I will not live in because of the way that my mother raised me. I will not live in certain houses in certain ways because my mother raised me a particular way. And when you're raised that particular way, you don't settle for living it. Even if you're living in a raggedy house, you got it clean and spotless simply because of the way you were raised. The problem is we live underneath our privilege. You see, let me tell you something. Most of the white saints, and they can relate all the way back to England, which is royalty. That's royalty. Prince Charles and Elizabeth, they go back to dukes and all those things. But you can't go back. And until you make that connection, you will not understand who you're supposed to be. And in your bloodline, just like in the Queen of England ran royalty, and your bloodline was royalty too. But you was disconnected from it and don't know who it is. And my job is to wake you up and show you that you're more than a servant, that you got royalty in your blood. To identify who you are and take that label off you as an African, because that's not what you are. I don't care what they tell you in school. You need to stop putting it on your paper. You need to tell them the truth. Circle the other ones. And they ask you some questions about it. Tell them I find out who I really am. Someone asked me one time, and I hope everybody can tolerate it. They say, why do you teach? Why don't you have a Mexican history month? Why don't you have a white history month? Or this history month? I said, because white America hasn't lost its history. Mexican America hasn't lost its history. You don't even have a name. Listen, your name is not connected with who you are. The label is changed on you. I'll give you an example. Spanish man, I can know him. Chitty chitty bang bang. Ching pang rang mang, we know that. Mexican, Jose Garcia, I can connect that. I can find him. The Africans that are still in Africa, hula bula, rula bula, you know, you can find him. John Smith. Sue Johnson. Those are names because once you were purchased, you took the name of your owner. So now you got a label switched on you. You don't know who you are. Somebody got to tell you who you are. That's why you're so messed up. And then you get smart and get ignorant. And you're ignorant. You're talking about you ain't going to name your child all those funny names. And you're ignorant. You look ignorant walking around with a name that doesn't connect to your culture. Everybody got a name connected to your culture but you. And so you don't want your child known Shanika and Talika and Bamrika and all those kind of things there because you say that don't connect. But now the guy come from China, he's just as proud to say I'm Chang. Why? Because when you see Chang, you know there is a successful Chinaman that made it on the board. Don't be afraid of your culture. And I'm going to say this again, I say it every year. I got sisters here, Sister Shelley and Sister Kathy. They're white, but they're not in here trying to grow afros. They're very satisfied and confident. They come in here every day, and I don't care what y'all say. You don't make me mad. I'm teaching this, and if you want to teach it, you teach it. At home, I'm teaching here. Shh. Sister Kathy walk in there just as proud as she is with her hair, and she doesn't try to change who she is. Sister Shelley walking in, you haven't seen her one time with an afro. Not one time. Because she's confident who she is. I'm going to tell you again today, I don't care if y'all get mad, get up upset. Again, I say again, I don't care what purpose you're wearing for. Again, there is an identity crisis with all this long hair that you're getting because you're not identifying with who you are. I don't care if you don't like it. You have an identity problem and you need to fix it. Big noses, big lips, that's you. And you see, there was a group of people that understood what that connected them to. And even in the African culture, they're not satisfied with the size of their lips because they know that meant power, and they went and got a board and scratched theirs. Because they understood something. They felt that big lips meant great speakers. But you hiding yours and doing all this stuff to get rid of it. Sister Kathy or Sister Shelley have not coming in today with black powder on their face trying to make themselves look darker. But yet you're going to put mascara and all this other stuff on your face to make you look lighter. You got a problem. That's identity problems. Now, I'm just going to give you something so you can see. Now, if Sister Kathy walked in today and she had black paint on her face, and she walked in, you would look at her and wonder what was going on. You would look at her with that black paint on her face and you look at her and say, oh my God, what done happened to Sister Kathy? But yet you are darker than me and go around with white paint on your face. What's wrong with you? Identity problem. Because you don't like who you are. Hello? I'm here now. I'm going all the way. It's so deep in you, you can't stand it. It's so deep in you, you can't accept it. It's so rooted in you, you can't get it out of you. You don't even know where it come from. It's planted in you. It's a seed to make you dislike who you are. Nobody do that like that, but us. You can go down to a store and people making money off of you. The first millionaire in America, the first woman millionaire was a woman that sold hair products. First woman millionaire. She got rich off of selling products. I'll tell you something. A sense of pride to the people that traveled from Africa, that were sold from Africa to here, a sense of pride has been stripped. Because you got people in huts that are poor. They have kinky hair, bone in the nose, no shirt, and they smile. Teeth, and they smile with their big lips and teeth with pride and take a picture. Got a spear? Just let me tell you, there's nothing like being around in Africa. The pride that he has about himself. Look at him. They look at him, and they ain't got nothing but a hut. Take a picture. Hey. Look at those pictures on Africa. Then you see them walking. They're walking with the stick with much pride. Here you are, got all this stuff, all this mascara, red lips, $280 hairdo. And have absolutely no inside pride about who you are. You say, yes, I do. No, you don't, because that ain't you. That's something you brought out the store. That's somebody else. I got pride in myself. No, you don't, because that ain't yourself. That's somebody else. And I do everything I can to try to pull it out of you. Pull it out of you. Pull it out of you so you have a sense of who you are. Can appreciate who you are. Amen. Genesis 29:31. Read, Jude.
And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren.
Yes.
And Leah conceived and bare a son.
Go back, son. Go back. Her first, go back. First son, her other son, Levi, what color was he? Dark. So this Jacob and Leah, the father of Reuben, Simeon, and Levi, and Judah. We do know, and I'm not going into other children now, we do know that if these two were, of course, the same mother and father to Levi, then Judah was black, Simeon was black, and Reuben was black. That means the tribe that Jesus came out of was black. The very tribe he came out of was black. See, you read it. Now let me show you something. Go back, go to the book of Revelations chapter 1. Revelation 1. Here's Revelation, the first chapter. First chapter. In the 13th verse.
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot.
When I was younger, when I was younger, for a certain age, up to a certain time, I did not like my color. Because I was darker. And you got picked at if you were dark. Smoky, black, and all those things. I got Noxzema put on. I used to go put on Noxzema. I thought that'll make you brighter. People would bleach themselves. I'm serious. Hello? S curls, Jerry curls, anything. Just people didn't like themselves. Lip, when you take a picture, you hide your lip. All those kind of things there. Your nose, big lip. Not realizing all of you got big lips. Most of us, we got hanging lips. They hang. That's just there. That's a part of who you are. Can't change it. Are you trying to make them smaller and do all that kind of thing like that? All right, Michael. So we got that. Go to the next one. The Lord promised Abraham's seed that he would give them the promised land. This is the land the Lord said, I'm going to give you. All right, read. Let's see what happened. Read. Go to the next one. All right. God promised Abraham that if his seed would forsake God's covenant when they enter into the land, that they would be scattered. Now let me tell y'all something. I want y'all to understand slavery and where it's come from. God promised, and I want to say to you that you're not Africans. I'm going to show you that you're Hebrews that were sold by Africans. But I want to tell you this. I want you to get this. God promised us and promised our fathers that if you forsake me, I'm going to scatter you all over the world. So the problem that you got with blacks scattered all over the world and this stuff, there was something that the nation did. They forsook God. Start worshiping the same gods that the African would worship. Go down to the book of Jeremiah chapter 9 and 16. And there is nobody in this world who have went through what the black people that came in America has went through. But because you left God and forsook God. When they went over to Africa, they started worshiping sticks and stones, and God said this was going to happen. Look at the book of Jeremiah chapter 9 and 16. Jeremiah the 9th chapter, the 16th verse.
I will scatter them also among the heathen,
Read the 14th verse.
but have walked after the imagination of their own heart,
You done walk, Israel, after the imagination of your own heart?
and after Balaam, which fathers taught them.
Yes.
Therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, the
Thus
God
said
of
the Lord of
Israel,
hosts.
Behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink.
Watch verse 16.
I will scatter them also among the heathen,
I'm going to scatter them among the heathen. I'm going to put them out everywhere. I'm going to scatter them. Read.
whom neither they nor their fathers have known.
Yes.
And I will send a sword after them, till I have consumed them. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye, and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send forth cunning women, that they may come, and let them make haste, and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with waters. For a voice of wailing is
So
heard.
the Lord says, I'm going to scatter y'all all over the earth. And I need some praying women to get together to pray for the nation of the Hebrews that are scattered everywhere. Now watch how he named specifically what's going to happen to the young men of that group. Read.
For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land, because our dwellings have cast us out. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth. You teach your daughters wailing, and every one her neighbor lamentation.
Now this message was specifically to the Hebrew people that had been scattered. But look why he said I want you to do it. Look at verse 21.
For death is come unto our widows.
Death is coming to our windows,
and into our palaces,
and into our houses.
to cut off the children from without,
To cut off the children which are without,
and the young men
and the young men
from the streets.
He said, death is going to come to your seed because you forsook me. I'm going to scatter you. And then death's going to come, and your young men going to be cut off in the street. Is that not what you're seeing on television today? All these young men being shot in the streets? He said that's what's going to happen to you because you forsaken me. That's part of the curse that God said would come because the Hebrew people forsook God. Now that's specific. He says, I'm going to cut off your young men in the streets. I'm going to have them killed. Look how many of these young people killed all over the streets, all over the streets, all over the streets. They forsook God. So I'm going to scatter you. That's number one. Y'all, that's making any sense? All right, go down now to Deuteronomy chapter 32 and 26. Deuteronomy 32 and 26. All right, 32 and 26.
And 26. I said, I will scatter them into corners.
I will scatter them into corners.
I will make the remembrance of them to cease
I will make the remembrance of them to cease.
from among men.
Look at it. Look how they're scattered. You got America. You got Barbados. You got Jamaica. You got Bahamas. You got all these little places that they're scattered everywhere. So I'm going to scatter them. Not only am I going to take them over here in ships, but I'm going to put a little bit of them over here, a little bit of them to make them weak and powerless. Because together they were a big number, but when I spread them just a little bit here, a little bit here, they're minorities everywhere they are, and they have no power. I'm going to scatter them. That's the Bible. Deuteronomy 28:64. Deuteronomy 28:64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
He'll scatter you among all people. Come on.
From the one end of the earth,
From one end of the earth
even unto the other.
unto the other.
And there thou shalt serve other gods,
And there you're going to serve other gods.
which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Go to the next one. Go to the next slide. All right? And now this is what the Lord said was going to happen to them. That's what it said. Now he told Israel while they were in Jerusalem. They were in Jerusalem. He said, you know what? I'm going to come. I'm going to take your land. I'm going to kick y'all out. I'm going to kick you out. I'm going to kick you out of Jerusalem. He gave them the promised land, and he told them in a prophecy, Jesus said, I'm going to kick you out. And somebody else is going to get in Jerusalem. Get the book of Luke 21 and 24. Luke 21 and 24. Watch this. This is a prophecy. Luke the 21st chapter and the 24th verse.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive.
He said, now listen, the Hebrews are going to be led away captive and done what?
Into all nations.
And I'm going to put them in all nations. I'm going to get the Hebrews and I'm going to get them away captive and I'm going to spread them in all nations, all different lands. Read.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
Jerusalem's going to be trodden down of the Gentiles. So I'm going to get the people that originally were in Jerusalem and spread them out. And I'm going to put Gentiles inside Jerusalem. So the people who are in Israel now are Gentiles. They're not the true Jews. They're not the true Hebrews. Because he said the Hebrews are going to be scattered. And he's going to tell you how long they're going to be scattered. Read.
Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. That means until the time that the church is raptured. Because that's the time of the Gentiles being fulfilled. If you go down to Revelation chapter 11, the 11th chapter, go to the next one, Revelation chapter 11, next slide. Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 through 5. Read.
And there was given me a reed like to a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and the measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles the holy city, shall they tread under foot 42 months.
All right, so the Gentiles will have Jerusalem, but the true Hebrews will be scattered in all nations. So we are scattered in all nations, and the people that are in Israel now are not the true Hebrews. All right, go to the next verse. Go to the next slide. Read. The Hebrews ran to Africa after the country failed and were sold by Africans to Americans. Go to the next verse. Next slide. All right. Now look at the distance. And most of you haven't studied this to know it. All right. This is Jerusalem. This is Africa. This is Niger. This is Nigeria. So you heard of there was certain that was called Niger. So what's happening is when in AD 70, when Jerusalem was under attack, the true Hebrews ran into Africa. And the Africans, who were also dark people, they were selling Hebrews to Americans. That's who they were selling. So it was not Africans selling Africans, it was Africans selling Hebrews. And it fulfilled the prophecy, go to the next one, it fulfilled the prophecy of, don't go to the next slide. It fulfilled the prophecy of Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Look at Deuteronomy 28 and 68. This is what he told Israel. Go back. You go back. You take yours back. All right. Right there. 28, 68. Read.
And the Lord shall bring thee unto Egypt again with ships.
He's going to bring you unto Egypt again with ships. So he's telling the Hebrews, you're going back to Egypt again and you're going in ships. Remind me, son, we're coming back to that slide, all right? Let's go to the next one. Watch this. All right, watch this. All right, he said, I'm going to bring you to Egypt again in ships, right? Go to the next slide. All right, go back and read it again. Go back to Deuteronomy 28:68. Listen at the prophecy. Read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee unto Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I will speak unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again.
He said, you will not see your land that you came from again. Once you get on those ships, you will not return back to the land that you came from. Read.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies.
Whenever you get to that land that you're getting over there with ships, you're going to be sold over there. I'm going to take you, go to the next slide. All right. They're the ships that God prophesied about. All right. And when you got over here in ships, you were sold, just like he said. Go to the next one. All right. Why did slavery happen? Deuteronomy 28 and 15. All right. Cut the light back on. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. I want you to read this and listen to what God said was going to happen. Read.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
if you won't hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God,
to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes,
to keep his commandments and statutes,
which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee.
These are curses that's going to come on you because you didn't obey me, Hebrew. Now you read in the Bible, you read how hard-headed the children of Israel were. You read how disobedient the children of Israel were. So now this is the fulfillment. Now when you read it, you read this as if this is some group of people somewhere else. I wonder why they were so hard-headed. And then I start discovering something. That's y'all. That ain't changed nothing today. Rebellious, hard-headed, and that's why you landed up in the condition that you're in right now. That's why. That's why the slavery. That's why the beating. That's why the whipping. All of that in the Bible, he mentioned that. He said you're gonna be sold. It's a curse. Slavery was a curse that was put on a disobedient people that forsook God. Keep reading.
Shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Yes.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
You're gonna be cursed in the city?
And cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shalt thou be thy baskets and thy store.
Yes.
Cursed shalt thou be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy nine, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Keep reading.
And the Lord shall send upon the curses vexation and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for today. Until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of the doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make thee pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed.
Now listen, he said, the Lord shall make pestilence cleave unto thee. You be honest, and you can tell the honest to God truth. Back in the day, there was nobody had roaches like black folk. Pestilent, roaches, every bug you ever seen, it was hanging in the house. I mean, common now. I'm not talking about, I imagine there was somebody Mexican, white, or other color that had roaches, but roaches was common. It was not, they were so common, we wasn't afraid of them. I mean, roach in there, go roach. Kill it. Flying roaches, Batman roach. He said, I'm going to cause these pestilence to come. These pestilence are going to come. Read what he said. Read. Come on.
Sorry. Until ye have consumed thee from off the land, and whether thou goest unto possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflation, with all the extreme burning, and with the sword, with the blasting, with the mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
Read.
And the heathen that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
Read.
And the Lord shall make thee rain of thy land, powder and dust, from heaven till it come down upon thee, until thou be destroyed.
Read.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
You'll be beaten in front of your enemies. Read something.
Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them. And thou shalt be removed unto all the kingdoms of the earth.
You're going to be scattered through all the kingdoms of the earth. Read.
And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. And the Lord,
they're going to leave you hanging, and the beast's going to eat you, and ain't nobody going to move them away. That happened in slavery. People just hung on the trees and left there for the buzzard to eat. He said this was going to happen. Read.
And the Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch whereof thou canst not be healed. And the Lord shall smite thee with madness, and with blindness, and with the astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope all the noonday as the blind grope in the darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. Thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled even more, evermore.
All this stuff is happening now. Read.
And no man shall save thee. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
In slavery. You're going to get a wife, but the slave master going to sleep with her. Read.
Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
You're going to build houses, but you won't live in them. Slavery. Read.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes.
You're going to plant vineyards in the crop, but it ain't going to be your crops. Read.
Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes. Thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shalt not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Your sons and daughters, you're going to have somebody else going to take them and sell them. All this happened in slavery. And this is the curse because of not obeying the voice of the Lord. Deuteronomy chapter 28. All right, go. So you can read the rest of that to find out what happened. Go to the next one. All right, now, he said, I'm going to bring you to Egypt. I'm going to bring you to Egypt. So, America is the spiritual Egypt. You see it on the back of the dollar. All right? This is a symbol of Egypt. Now, when we were younger, go to the next one. When we were younger, look at that. That's the Washington Monument, right on the top of it, the pyramid. Egypt, read. Who remember that when you were young in the parades? Who don't remember the Shriners? And the whole theme of the parade, that took the highlight of the parade, were men who were walking around as Egyptians. This is the Egypt. This is the Egypt that God spoke of. Let's go down to the next one. Read. All right? He said that. The Lord will it will scatter you. And look what it says in verse 28, 30, 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even to others, and there you shall serve other gods. So when the Hebrews went to Africa, look what they served. Read. Go down. Next slide. Next slide. That's the gods in Africa, made of stone and wood. And the Hebrew people started serving the stone and wood after they left Jerusalem, ended up in Africa. Keep going. Next one. All right? Now, I want you to see this, and this is very important. Everything that happened, this is why we're seeing what's going on in America now. Everything that happened in Egypt, as God delivered them, is going to be happening right before the tribulation period comes. So if you get the book of Genesis chapter 15, Genesis 15 chapter, God prophesied how long that the children of Israel at the first Egypt, how long they will be there. In Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. Read. 15, 13. Read it together. Look what it says.
And he said unto Abram, known of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is no heirs, and thou shalt serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
How long they going to be there? 400 years. 400 years. All right. Type in, can you go online? Type in, when did slavery begin in America? Now he said 400 years. All right. Can you get that online? All right. Now we're fulfilling Bible prophecy and we're seeing this. All right. (1619). This is going to be very important. 1619, slavery began. All right? If you go and read in the book of Genesis chapter 15 and 13, read what happens.
And he said unto Abram, known of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is no theirs, that is not theirs,
not theirs,
and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
Oh, now watch this. You understand? In that first Egypt, they was there 400 years, and then deliverance came. 400 years. 2019 will be the 400th year that the slaves have been in America. So all this stuff that's happening in 2018, you better hear me, 2019, something gonna happen. That's a promise to Abraham, and so now it is repeating itself. So what you're seeing now is Genesis chapter 1. This thing is heavy now. 400 years, and God said deliverance is coming. 400 years. Now I'm going to show you something. God said, now this is Egypt, and this is what's going to happen in America now. In the book of Genesis chapter 19 and 1, a civil war is coming. 19th chapter, 19th of Isaiah in the first verse. Look what God said. Isaiah 19:19. This was a prophecy that he gave to the spiritual Egypt. 19:1. Read.
And there came two angels to Sodom at even.
No, I mean Isaiah 19:1. 19:1. Read.
The burden of Egypt.
The burden of Egypt.
Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift
The
cloud.
Lord is going to come on a swift cloud. Now listen what this is talking about. That's the rapture. He's coming on a swift cloud. For behold, he cometh with clouds. Read.
And shall come unto Egypt in the idols of Egypt.
He going to come to Egypt in what?
In the idols of Egypt.
And the isles of Egypt. Read.
Shall be moved at his presence.
They're going to be moved at his presence. Read.
And the heart of Egypt shall melt.
Why is God coming to Egypt? Now he's talking about, listen, why is God coming to Egypt? That's where his people were. He ain't coming to Jerusalem first. He's going to come to Egypt. Look what happens. Read.
And the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it.
Yes.
And I will set
I will set
the Egyptians against the Egyptians.
Egyptians against the Egyptians. Democrats, Republicans. Now this war and fight that's going on, it ain't never got this intense. He said, I'm going to cause a civil war. And the Egyptians, this is spiritually Egypt, will be against the Egyptians. They're going to fight each other. That's what's going to happen. The Egyptians, and so now what you see going on now is Egypt fighting Egypt. God is causing Egypt to fight Egypt. That's the Bible. Somebody say hallelujah. Now, I'm going to give you this last scripture, Exodus 1. So you got 400 years. So 2019 will be the 400 year that the modern day Hebrews that we have traced have been in America. It's amazing that it's 400 years. 400 years. And then the stuff that's happening is just like it happened in the days of Egypt, Exodus chapter 1. Get Exodus first chapter. Exodus first chapter. All right, Exodus 1 and 1. Watch this.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel.
Let's go down to Exodus 1. Let's get this. Let's watch this. I want you to think about this. Everybody knows the story of Joseph? How many know the story of Joseph? Right? Joseph was a dreamer. Right? How did Joseph get into Egypt? His brothers sold him. All right? Now, the black people that were in Africa, which considered themselves brothers, the Hebrews, how did they get here? Their brothers sold them. So just like, see, so you got the Egypt then, you got the children of Israel then, and you got the same text here, but it's now it's playing out in a different matter. So they were sold by their brethren, just like Joseph was sold by his brother. And guess what happened? Watch. Joseph lived a better life than most of them because he was in Egypt. The American that was sold has a higher privileged life than the ones that are still out there in famine. Ethiopia, famine. All those lands, a lot of them have experienced famine while the sold brother, the Joseph, is eating good in Egypt. Look on the television. Look all those countries where they're poor. They sold. Y'all follow me? It's lined up. It's lining up. And then the Joseph here allowed all of the other ethnic groups, his other brothers, to get in. They got in the country. Look what happens. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7. Read what it says.
And the children of Israel were fruitful. It increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
All right, let's stop here. You have to understand the initiation and what ethnic cleansing is about, and why there was so much murder and killing during right after the time period of slavery, because you got to understand the concept. This is the concept. Jude and Amelia owned slaves. I'm going to use that. So you own slaves. And you're making your money by selling slaves. So you're going to breed and get 200 slaves. But it's only 3 or 4 of y'all living in the family because you're breeding. The fight to keep slavery in was this. If I release now everybody and they're no longer slaves, we're outnumbered. Because we've been breeding to have more of them. If a man raises cattle, he's got more cattle than people. If a man raising slaves, he got more slaves than people. So now immediately in some towns, they were outnumbered by the slaves. Had those slaves been free, they would have been out voting and they would have outvoted them. So they had to kill so many of them because they were outnumbered and they would have took over certain towns. So now there had to be a mass killing. Food-wise, Ku Klux Klans, all of these things had to come to eliminate, to kill up a certain amount because there was a problem. Slavery, let me give you this two things. The Civil War, and I'm going over this by the Bible, the Civil War was nothing about just releasing the slaves. It was industrialism versus manual labor. I'm going to go over that later. But I want you to understand from the Bible aspect, go to the book of Exodus, go back to Exodus chapter 1, see where we are. Exodus 1 and verse 8.
Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
Yes.
And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
Slavery is a mindset. It is a mindset. I'm going to say this. You are so busy looking at the physical aspect of slavery, and the way that you manipulate people is to release you physically, but you're really not released mentally. The average black person is still a slave in his mind. Locking you up and throwing you out of the house don't free you mentally. Know why he's still a slave? Because he's still dependent on government programs. He's still dependent on a handout. Still enjoy lying on the income tax, talking about you claiming people to get money. Still enjoy going down to get free food stamps. You ain't free. You're still a slave. Because you like going down there and get free stuff. Only man that get free stuff, and y'all young men get it too. The only man that get free stuff, and when I say free stuff, and live for free, is the one that don't get a paycheck. Because he don't work for one. See? So he hasn't been liberated. I'm going to show you the children of Israel, when Moses brought them out physically, they were still talking about, we had graves in Egypt. They were out physically, but they were not mentally, and their mental focus was still dependent upon Pharaoh to take care of them. Why are you still dependent upon government assistance to take care of you when you can get up and work yourself? Y'all ain't saying much. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going over that. I got to go. Oh, see what's happening. Ah, Lord, I wish I had a little more time to talk about this. But you ain't free mentally. Still lazy. Still won't work. And still blaming everybody else for your condition. Now, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you totally right. I have to agree that a lot of condition that is, but we got setbacks. But you know, until you're able to work around those setbacks, because the system ain't going to change it. You got to change it. Y'all listen to me? So I'm going to be talking about this slave mentality. First I got to find out, let you know who you are, then I'm talking about this slave mentality. Get that mindset out of you. Get that thought out of you. Get that system out of you. Amen. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Y'all with me tonight? So it's important that I teach this so that you can understand, number one, where you are, what's got us here, and then stop crying about where you are and do something about it and get out of it. When I see perfectly good, healthy young men who don't want to work, you're a slave. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Amen. See? You want that mentality. Don't want to take care of your children because master going to feed it. See, the government become master. See, master tell you how much you can get. See, when you get on food stamp, they tell you how much money you can have in the bank. Anything that's going to tell you how much money you can have, that's master. But when you're free from that system, you can get how much you want for yourself. Then you become independent. Amen. Y'all ain't saying much. Yes, ma'am.
Just around here, in the last part of that verse, it says that no man shall buy you.
See, right. He said, no, he said, you're going to be sold first. And then you're going to get to a point where ain't nobody going to buy you, but you're still going to be a slave. See, and that happened. When you were released from slavery, guess what? You're still in slavery. Oh yeah, y'all, you are. You know why? Because if you work right now, I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you how to fight slavery. Show you how to fight slavery. And I'm gonna get out and show you how to fight slavery. If you make $1,000 and you have to pay institutions $800, and then you got $200, you got to spend that in gas, and all you got is about $10 to get you some food, how much of that money yours? None. You work for somebody else. You're still a slave because you ain't got none of it. So guess what? A system is set to make sure that the money that you get goes back into the hands of the person that gave it to you. And the reason it goes back in the person's hand that gave it to you, right now, I show you something right now. You got a store on the corner, and I'm not against people putting stores wherever you want to go. You got a store on the corner, that's Middle Eastern. A store on this corner, that's Middle Eastern. You got a Publix on this corner, it's George Jenkins, white. You got a store, you got all these things over there that's getting all the money surrounded by this community, getting all the money, and not $1 of it going back into the black community. All of it going outside, and none of it invested back in. You know why? Because you won't start a business. You know why? Because you'd rather go down there and get 10 of y'all to go buy weed than to go buy your weed store. So somebody else comes in the neighborhood that don't even wear what you wear, put it in your neighborhood and make all your money. All y'all in here got this weave in your hair, about 50 of you. If y'all would have took y'all money together and put it together, listen to me, listen, because you don't think like that. Now these next few weeks are going to be hard because I'm trying to get you out of where you are. So you got 50 people who got weave in their hair. All y'all could have put your money together, brought you a whole bunch of weed from China, real cheap, got a little weed store and sold it, but instead you're going down to buy. And all you got to do is get in your thought and think in business. But you're not taught to think as a business person. You're taught to think as a consumer. When I go talk like this, y'all start looking funny, but I'm telling you the truth. Now, if I'm talking about fornication, adultery, the devil, you sinning, talking, and gossip, y'all all right. But I'm talking about this stuff, your spending habits. But how long you gonna do it? How long you gonna make everybody else rich and don't do nothing in your own neighborhood? And it's an economical rape. And so what it does, it does not give you empowerment to give jobs. It doesn't give you empowerment to do something for your own community and to pour back in. Why? Because you're taught to be divided. Can't trust each other. And you're taught that you don't treat your brother as an equal. You don't treat him as an equal. You treat him as something that is under. So you won't pay him the same thing you pay somebody else. You won't patronize him the same way that you patronize somebody else. You'll go and sit in Sister Pope's hair salon and say, How much you gonna give me? You gonna give me a cut, ain't you? But you don't go to Fantastic Sam and say that. You go to a little store that one of the sisters selling dresses. You go in there and say, "Girl, how much you gonna give me on that? You gonna give me 10%, 20? No, you gonna give me a Saint discount? Oh, come on, you can do better than that." But then you go down there to Louis Vuitton and go in and give them whatever the price they want. Your thinking got to change. Amen. See, I thank God, and I'll say this, very, very important. I thank God why I got this kind of thinking, why I got this kind of thought. See, my mother worked as a housemaid for Dorothy Ford, all white. And they adopted us. Miss Ford treated us like her own children. So she was white, but she gave me a different thought. So when I go to her house, and she made me feel like, and this was way back then, she made me feel like I was somebody as a black person. She made sure that my mother had good, made sure that she gave her a concept. You see, my mother never lived, I've never lived anywhere but something that she owned, because this lady taught us something. She taught us some knowledge. Investing. She taught her a different concept. And Miss Dorothy Ford put that same concept in me. I never forget, they tried to hold me back in I think it was the fourth grade. I had a racist teacher, fourth grade. Tried to hold me back. Miss Dorothy Ford got with my mother and made sure that they fought. Now this is a white lady, that they fought to get me ahead. Then you had Mr. Bass. Then I was around Brother Lipham, and I got a chance to think outside of our normal thinking realm, our normal thought realm. And when I was able to be introduced to that and to see that, then I got a whole different mindset. And so what has to happen now is because and I'm a different kind of person. I'm a different kind of person. I feel like I'm just as important as anybody else. Different kind. So I don't mind if I sin in injustice. My mama always tried to tone me down, because I said, as a little boy, I said, that's not right. Because I was around people that felt like they was equal, and they made me feel equal, and that there was no need of treating me any different because I was black. I credit a lot of that, not just to my raising, because my mother would accept certain things that a lot of my white friends wouldn't accept. She'd say, pray about it. And I didn't want to pray about it. And I didn't pray about it. Some things I prayed about, some things I addressed. And it made a difference. She's always in the background, you're going to get killed, Lord Jesus. You're praying and all that. I went to a restaurant. I went to a hotel in Moultrie, Georgia. And they told me I couldn't stay in that hotel simply because I was black, and I knew it was that. I was black. I just recently got married. And the guy told me, he said, we have no vacancy. And I knew he was lying, because I'm looking at it. You can tell it when you see it. You tell racism when you see it. So I said, this guy lying. So I went in the car. When I get in the car, I said, you know what? I'm going to call back. And my mom was, oh, Lord, here he is again. Lord, he go, we in Georgia. You're going to get us burned up. These people don't play in Georgia. She got highly upset. But I called the phone, and I disguised my voice. And I said to him, I used the white dialect instead of black dialect. And he gave me the room. And I gave him my name. I said, my name is Clayton Cowart. He said, okay, partner, come on down. So I went back in the hotel. He said, I told you we ain't have no more rooms. I said, I know, and you lied too, didn't you? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, you lied. Mama and them out there, oh, God, I pray. I said, yeah, you lied. I said, and I changed my voice back to the white dialects. I said, I'm the one that you was talking to on the thing. I said, I'm going to stay here tonight. If I was going to stay, but Mother Cowart, she told, because I was going to make it sure that I wasn't going to be discriminated because of my color. I said, I'm saying, other guys say, you don't know. Please, I'm begging you, just let it go. Just let it go. Just turn it loose. Give it to Jesus, please. And she started crying. And when she started crying, I felt like Jesus with Mary. When she asked him to get that water, to fix the wedding, and I walked away. Now, so this is important. And one thing I'm glad about, I want you to see this. And thank God for our saints. We got saints in the church that are not black. So thank God for you being able to tolerate and hear what I'm talking about tonight. But it's very important that even from other ethnic groups that you learn pride about yourself. You know, it takes something to walk into a church full of black people and maintain your culture. But it's not hard for Sister Shelley, not hard for Sister Kathy to do. That's hard for us to do. That's because there's something that needs to be done inwardly. Inwardly. You don't just, when Sister Kathy talk, when Sister Shelley talk, you don't hear them saying, yeah, y'all know that, yeah, you don't see her doing that. You don't see her doing it. She's heard. She's heard. But the minute blacks are engaged to any other culture, they change. And then people don't really get to know who you really are. And so now, guess what? I learned this in the school I went to. When I went there from 7th grade till I graduated. And Brother Lipham taught me this. I learned this. Now, you'll never know, and most of us never, I was fighting an issue with Polk, and I'm closing. And I had the lady there because I had accused her of being a racist because of what had happened with T. And she said, I have black friends. How dare you? And I said, yeah. I said, guess what? All your black friends are white. She said, yep. I said, every one of them. And I started pointing. I called her name. I said, she white? She said, what do you mean? I said, she's black, but when she get around you, she turn white, so you don't know who she is. And I asked the lady, I'm going to call her name. I said, Val, have you told her that you eat chitlins? I said, yeah. And then the lady, the white lady on the board said, what are those? Baby chickens? I said, no! Val, you ain't telling what a chitlin is. They was all looking at me, you know, the Seditic group was looking like, what is he going to do? I said, how about oxtails? I said, that's why I told you all your white friends black, all your black friends white, because when y'all get together, they act like you, and you really never have been around a black person. I said, now I'm really black. You want to hang around me? I'll show you what a black person do. I'll go down there and get you some hog maws, some chitlins, some crackling cornbread, and sit you down, and you're going to find out. Brother Lawhorn, when he came down, I ain't changed my dialect or nothing. Brother Lawhorn, the first time I met him, said, come on, we're going down to get something to eat. We had the preacher's place and went up and said, what we going to eat? I said, ox. He said, ox what? He said, you mean like the guy that do that? I said, yeah, that guy. He said, we going to eat it? I said, yeah. He said, Brother Cowart, who told me? He said, Brother Cowart, he said, you know what? I'm going to try this. And he enjoyed it. Now I told him, I said, now I'm going to take you to the next stage of blackness. He said, well, I said chitlins. He said, what is them? I said, the hog guns. He said, no. He said, ain't that black now? But the fact is, they knew him. I went to school because you're ashamed of who you are. Now guess what? Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to say this and go on. You watch this. You got all these cultures who are proud of some of the dishes that they have in their ethnic groups. But we are the last to start endorsing what we are. And I thought about this, and it was a shame when I said it. I told the brothers in the meeting. You got Italian food, Pizza Hut. It's a major chain. Taco Bell, Mexican, major change. Major chain. Kentucky Fried Chicken, an American dish, major chain. There is not one ethnic group that's a major chain for blacks in America. All of them are little mom and pop looking things. everybody else that come in. China, they got Panda China, China Panda, all them places. A major chain. A major chain. And now look, now a lot of these ethnic groups came later. You've been here 400 years. I mean, you look like you ought to have something called chitlin bowl or oxtail delight. A little bit here and there. A little bit here and there. It's making sense, right? Y'all bear with me this week now. I'm going to try to help you and teach you. I may be getting in some of y'all areas, but that's all right. Y'all will get over it. I brought my stick tonight. Amen. It'll hold you back till I get to it. All right, everybody. Any questions tonight? Any questions tonight? Any questions tonight? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And I was asking, I was just saying to them, I said, well, I know they say that, in the Bible they use the word black, and so I was saying to him. I
mean the word nigga or the word black? Black.
They said with the color.
Oh, yeah.
Black. And I was wondering why, was everybody in the Bible actually black?
You had black and white in the Bible. It was majority from a black area, but you had black and white in the Bible, both.
The reason why I asked that question, because when I look at black, I see a different colors in what they, black people. And then when I see white people, I don't see white, I see pink. So I'm just saying, why was it, why do they call us black? There's nothing wrong with it. But
the reason they say black, I think they say black because that's darkness. So what she's saying is people say black, but we're not really black like this. And people say white, and people that are white are not really white like the color white that we have. Well, I think because, and it's a good argument, but now there are people that originated in those countries that were really black. If you look in Ethiopia, there are people that are black as your hair. But see, what's happening now is you gotta remember now the bloodline has been mixed, and so because the bloodline has been mixed, you definitely ain't 100% pure black. So Cowart ain't 100% pure black. My grandfather's, I think my grandfather's Amos Cowart's mother. My granddad, and I know y'all can't tell it, because I'm a little ways down the line. But if my hair get wet enough, you'll see it. If it get wet, without any curling or anything, that it's going curl up a different way. That's just the only place that it's in there. It's not in the color. But that's my grandfather's mother was white, and so what's happening? What you're seeing now is not really true black. There's been a little bit of mixture in all of us. Amen. Since we got over here and got, everything got connected. Amen. Somebody say hallelujah. Amen. All right, any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, you want to hear my... All right, if you'll give me some black dialect, I'll give you some white dialect. I said, hello, partner, how are you doing? My name's Clayton. How are you doing there? I'd like to know about getting a room here. All right, now you ready for some black dialect? Yeah, thank God. Let's put our hands together and give God praises. Come on, let's give him praises. You know what I mean?